James was a 30-year-old man who, up until a year ago, had no real interest in the paranormal or anything related to supernatural phenomena. He lived a fairly typical life, with the regular concerns and routines of adulthood. James was an outspoken person, especially when it came to his beliefs in science. He had always considered the spiritual world a mere myth, an illusion that people clung to in fear or ignorance. Science, in his view, was the only truth. Everything could be explained by logic, facts, and reason. The idea of a ghost or any kind of spiritual presence was absurd to him. Little did he know that his worldview was about to be shattered, and the very belief system that had shaped his life would be challenged in ways that were far beyond his understanding. Over the course of several months, strange things began happening inside his house. At first, they were small and easy to dismiss, an object out of place here, a flicker of light there. But as time went on, these occurrences became increasingly bizarre and impossible to ignore. The unusual events escalated so quickly that James soon found himself facing something he couldn't explain or rationalize. Eventually, he made the decision to contact a priest, hoping that a blessing would rid his home of the disturbing presence. The priest came to perform the blessing, but as the next clip shows, things didn't go as planned.
Yo.
Despite the blessing, the strange events continued. For reasons that James could not understand, he began hearing a rattling sound from one of the cabinets in the room. Initially, he assumed it was just a random noise, perhaps caused by something settling or shifting, but the sound was too persistent to ignore. Intrigued and somewhat uneasy, James decided to investigate the source of the noise. As he stood in front of the cabinet, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from, something far more unsettling occurred. His gaming chair, which had been stationary on the floor, suddenly turned around on its own. No one was near the chair, and nothing appeared to cause it to move. James was left in shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. He had believed that getting the house blessed would rid him of whatever malevolent force was in his home, but the blessing clearly hadn't worked. To his surprise, things were getting worse. The more he tried to dismiss the occurrences as coincidences, the more extreme they became.
Yo. Yo.
Soon, even more objects in the room began to move of their own accord. These were no longer small, subtle shifts. Things were being thrown, knocked over, and rearranged in ways that defied logic. James was no longer able to dismiss these events as figments of his imagination. He had come to a terrifying realization. The entity haunting his home was real, and he was powerless to stop it. Desperate for a solution, James made the decision to sell the house and move away. His plan was to find a new place, ideally one closer to his parents, where he could escape the terrifying presence that had taken over his life. Unfortunately, we are never updated on whether he was successful in selling the house or what ultimately became of him. In an earlier video, we delved into the life of Daniel, a young adult who was going through one of the most difficult periods of his life. Daniel had recently decided to move in with his girlfriend, Kate, in an effort to share rent and ease some financial pressure. However, things didn't go as planned. Shortly after they moved in together, Kate broke up with Daniel and returned to her parents' home, leaving him with the entire apartment to himself. This left Daniel in a difficult spot, as the lease agreement with the landlord required that the apartment be occupied for at least 6 months. Since Kate had moved out, Daniel was now financially responsible for the rent, even though he was living alone. To make matters worse, he began experiencing strange occurrences inside the apartment. The most alarming was the sound of movement coming from the closet. At first, Daniel dismissed it, assuming it was just his imagination or the apartment settling. But as time passed, the noises became more frequent and Daniel became increasingly concerned. He would hear scraping sounds, shifting objects, and whispers coming from the closet, and he was left wondering what could be causing it. The next video we're about to show captures one of the most intense moments of Daniel's struggle with the paranormal.
So it just started knocking in the closet again. And actually the doll has moved since yesterday because it was in the corner, like kind of on its back looking upwards, and now it's upright, so that's kind of scary. See if it'll knock anymore. Or it'll just move the shirt in the closet. Hey, if you can hear me, just move it again. Alright. We can actually just go check it out. Because there's no one in here. It's not really, it's kind of cluttered, so yeah, yesterday it was over here.
In this video, Daniel, in an attempt to communicate with the spirit haunting his apartment, used a clever method. He moved a shirt in a certain way and asked the spirit to respond by moving it again. To his astonishment, the spirit complied, and the shirt moved in response to his request. This wasn't just a random movement, it was deliberate and intelligent, suggesting that there was indeed a presence in the apartment. Daniel was left in awe, realizing that the entity in his home wasn't just a figment of his imagination, it was real, and it was aware of him. This was the moment Daniel knew for sure that he wasn't alone in the apartment, and that whatever was there, it was not friendly. In another recent video, we examined an experiment conducted by James, one that garnered quite a bit of attention. Let me explain it for those who might not have seen the original content. William Sloane, a young boy, began to experience strange occurrences in his home. These events were unlike anything he could explain, and they were happening on a daily basis. Despite his attempts to tell his parents about the strange happenings, they dismissed his concerns, thinking he was either imagining things or playing tricks. Determined to prove that something supernatural was going on, William decided to conduct his own experiments. He set out to gather evidence of the paranormal activity by using whatever methods he could think of. The experiment featured in the video we're showing today is one of the most compelling.
Okay, I've been going over the footage from last night, and it's pretty crazy. And I don't know what's going on, but I tell you, I've been blaming my cats since I got them for pulling my records off the shelf. And I don't know, sometimes it might be them, but it definitely wasn't last night.
William believed that evil spirits were drawn to religious texts, so he placed a holy book on a shelf in his living room. He also set up a camera facing the bookshelf to document any strange occurrences that might take place. What happened next was both shocking and disturbing. The holy book was knocked off the shelf and onto the floor, an event that seemed impossible to explain. This confirmed William's suspicions that whatever entity was in his house was not only real, but malevolent. But the events didn't stop there. The camera also captured an object on the table moving on its own, sliding across the surface in a manner that defied logic. William's experiment provided undeniable evidence that something evil was indeed lurking in his home. In the next video, we follow Mackenzie as she experiences something truly bizarre. She was in her room assembling a new bed when she suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to look out the window. It wasn't a normal feeling. Something deep inside her told her that there was something wrong outside, something that needed her attention. Listening to her intuition, Mackenzie went over to the window and peered out at the street. What she saw next was utterly strange and unsettling.
I'm like fucking scared. There is no one standing there, but there's a silhouette, like a shadow of a person. Yeah.
A shadowy figure appeared on the wall, casting the unmistakable outline of a human form. The odd part was that no one was standing on the street and no cars were passing by. The shadow seemed to appear out of nowhere, and it left Mackenzie feeling deeply uneasy. She could sense that something was wrong, that this was not a natural occurrence. The eerie feeling grew stronger as she watched the shadow shift and move. But what was even more unsettling was that Mackenzie wasn't alone in her discomfort. Her audience, watching from home, also shared a sense of dread. It was clear that something unusual had happened, and Mackenzie decided to address it in a follow-up video.
Hi, I decided to record this video because when I saw amount of comments and videos and direct messages for the video that I had recorded like on Saturday, so I was shocked. So people who are saying that it was spray painted, no, it was not. I'm gonna show you a video. I'm gonna show what is happening now. People that are saying that I have photoshopped that, damn, it took me 4 tries for me to be able to record this video, because I didn't realize that there are stories and videos, and in videos you can select 3 minutes long video. So that's another thing. Even though I'm a white lady in her 30s, and usually in horror movies we are killed first, I that day, 5 minutes after I took that video, I went downstairs to check what is causing that, because even though I was very scared, I was I'm too curious. Nothing could cause that. Nothing. Tomorrow when I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna take a video so that if anyone is interested, you can check that yourself. But that, a shadow can be either a direct projection of something, or it needs to have a trail from something that is causing this to have a shadow. I'm oh. But yeah, it did not have that. It did not. And also the the lamppost that was very, very far ahead, it was not reaching. I could see when its shadow was finishing. And also the building that is up on the opposite street, opposite that building, that shadow, it was not causing that. I have no idea. I do believe in those kind of things a bit, but not as much. And I was so scared. I was not a little bit scared. I was scared. But then I decided to enjoy my bank holiday weekend. And people from UK, I hope you enjoyed the bank holiday. Yeah.
So as you see, there is nothing. Nothing at all. Yeah. That's a lamppost on next to my neighbors. And it would project here. So yeah. Nothing.
In this follow-up, Mackenzie broke down the situation and tried to debunk any theories about the shadow. The most common explanation was that it was cast by something ordinary, like a tree or an object on the street. However, after reviewing the footage, she quickly ruled out this theory. There was nothing in the street that could have created such a shadow. The mystery remained unresolved, and the unsettling presence of the shadow lingered in the minds of those who had witnessed it. Mike and Sam were 2 well-known ghost hunters in their town, both determined to capture solid evidence of the paranormal. They had gained a reputation for their relentless pursuit of the truth, embarking on expeditions every week to different locations, rumored to be haunted. In the next video, Mike and Sam set out on an expedition in the Woodlands near a highway, where it was believed that a person had passed away under mysterious circumstances. Their goal was to capture proof that spirits linger at the locations of their deaths, forever tied to the places where their lives ended.
My name is Mike. This is my friend Sam.
Hello.
We don't mean any disrespect. We're only here to learn and communicate. This may be your last opportunity to communicate with anyone.
Whenever you asked that last question, the camera just died.
Really? Was it charged?
Yeah, it was fully charged. I mean, I K2, check the K2.
Something over there? I haven't seen anything, bro.
Dude, something moved over there, I swear. Wait, it's moving.
Whoa! What's that?
As they ventured deeper into the woods, they encountered something truly strange. If you watch the video closely, towards the end, a pale figure appears on the camera. The figure moves swiftly and silently across the frame, its transparent appearance unmistakable. Mike and Sam were the only people on the expedition, and no one else had been in the area. This figure, too faint to be human, only added to the mystery of the location. It was the closest they had come to capturing definitive evidence of the paranormal, but as always, the truth remains elusive. Ghost hunting is a dangerous and demanding profession, one that requires a certain level of bravery that most people don't possess. Henry, the British ghost hunter you're about to meet, is one of the bravest individuals in the field. He had been hunting ghosts for 3 years and had grown accustomed to the eerie environments he encountered. Nothing seemed to faze him, until one particular adventure that nearly broke him. It happened at 1 a.m. in an abandoned mansion known as the Place of Nightmares. This mansion had a reputation in the area, with locals claiming it was haunted, though no one really knew why. The last family to live there hadn't died within its walls. Still, there was something unsettling about the mansion, and Henry decided to explore it. Let's take a look at what happened during his investigation.
This place is fucking horrible.
In the beginning of the clip, you'll notice a drawer opening by itself. While some might argue that it was simply a malfunction, it was only the beginning of a string of strange events. Keep an eye on the fire extinguisher placed on a table in the background. Now let's fast forward to a later part of the video.
I smell smoke. That's someone had a cigarette.
If you pay close attention, you'll see that the fire extinguisher has moved to a different location in the room. Henry hadn't been back to the room during this period, so there was no explanation for how it could have moved. This unsettling event was only one of many in the mansion, and though we don't have time to show everything, Henry's experience in that mansion left him questioning the true nature of the haunting. Finally, in another video, Darza, an employee at a local corner store, was working the dreaded night shift. The night shift was always a tough and demanding role, as it meant staying late and completing all the closing tasks. Darza was busy rearranging the shelves and preparing to lock up the store for the night, when something strange happened.
Yo queriendo grabar mi rutina y pasa esto.
At the 37-second mark of the video, a figure can be seen walking past the shelves, but when Daza checked to see if a late customer had entered, he found nothing. The store was empty. Whatever had passed by was no ordinary person, it was a spirit. From that moment, Daza began to feel an eerie presence in the store, though his manager attributed it to a placebo effect. Regardless, Daza knew what he had seen. 2 days later, Daza worked another night shift, and something equally bizarre occurred. He was mopping the floor, and when he finished, he noticed something strange.
Pensé que era puro pedo que anda una niña.
Acabo de trapear. No me la van a creer, pero... Bachen. Si son cuerdas para distinguirlas, son unas patitas. Ay, güey, no seas mamón, verga.
Footprints appeared on the floor, but they weren't like any footprints he had ever seen. They were white, flat, and unnatural. Daza was shocked to find that the footprints felt completely ordinary when he touched them, as if they weren't physically there at all. When Daza returned to the store the next night, the footprints had vanished, as though they had never existed. This mysterious event left him convinced that he had encountered something supernatural. Home security became a widespread trend a few years ago as burglaries were happening more frequently. People were becoming increasingly concerned about the safety of their homes, and as a result, began investing in various forms of security systems. From alarm systems to cameras, and even advanced smoke systems, everyone seemed to be racing to protect their homes from potential intruders. The following footage was captured during this heightened security craze. The homeowners had recently installed 4 cameras inside their house, along with a high-tech smoke system designed to activate when a break-in occurred. This system would create a thick, zero-vision smoke within 10 seconds, rendering it almost impossible for burglars to see or act. Fortunately, over the years that the homeowners had these devices, they had never needed to use them for their intended purpose, at least not for any burglaries. However, the footage we're about to see shows that these systems would come in handy for another reason. In the video, a series of objects begin moving on their own in the kitchen. Meanwhile, the door in the frame seems to shift off camera. The family claimed they could hear faint banging noises as this occurred. The strange activity triggered the smoke system, filling the room with thick smoke. It took them almost 2 hours to clear the room and restore visibility. The homeowner later commented that the entire experience felt like something straight out of a James Bond movie. Cool yet terrifying. Yet,